Go. Let's redo it. The tram. 3, 2, 1.
G'day guys, it's been raining for the last 4 days in Surfers Paradise. Yeah, so much for paradise. And so to make the most of that, we thought we'd come out and do some street photography, because street photography at night with the water everywhere is epic. Just not working. Gosh. Oh, it's so good. There's a lot of different options you get with night rain street photography, for example the trams, but we'll get to them. One of the other epic opportunities is reflections, because there's pools of water everywhere, and maniac drivers. And so let me just demonstrate what I'm talking about with this puddle in front of me. What you're looking for in a great reflection is it captures something, it captures a subject that looks captivating. So at night, that's bright colors, movement, something unexpected like a pedestrian walking past, and you want to use the reflection as your main subject area, of which you pick a subject in that. With, for example, with this, the hard rock sign, obviously you're looking at the guitar, we focus in on that and pull the trigger, and this is what we get. Alright, so we've wandered down the street. We're just in front of Q1, which is the highest residential building in the southern hemisphere. There you go, bit of a tidbit for you. And what I've done is I've lined up a shot using the leading lines. Leading lines are another attribute you have to use in street photography. So you look for the lines and where they're leading, and these lines lead into the shot. Okay, so that's the scene, and as you can see, you've got the tram lines just here, and then you've got the pavement lines here, and then you've got Q1 is the big one. And so the shot is composed like so. So here's what I'm looking at, and I've decided to go with a 5-second exposure, because otherwise the tram looks too blurry. Check out what the tram looks like with a 20-second. It's not strong enough. That means a 22 f-stop, which gives really nice starburst effect from those lights. And that leaves me with an ISO of 800, and I've slightly underexposed. I don't mind underexposing on a shot like this, because it brings out some of the color in the night, and you can always in post bump it up a little bit. So one stop under, that's even 2/3 of a stop, which is nothing. So keep that in mind, and we'll now wait. Oh, here comes the trams. Let's see how we go. The reason leading lines are important in a shot is it draws your eye into the subject matter. And so they can be anything. They can be lines of a building, they can be tram lines here, or the pavement, they can be lines of a road or trees. There's no limit to what they can be, but cities are filled with leading lines, and so you're looking for horizontal lines that lead you in to the image. So another option you've got in any sort of photography, especially with this moving anything, elements, vehicles, is panning. And Harrison Tong Photography is a bit of a master at the old panning. So Harry, talk us through what lens you use.
So you can use any lens, but the wider you go, the easier it is, and the more motion blur you're going to see in a pan. So I'm using a 17 to 28 right now at 17, but I've done it with 85s and 70 to 200s before. The main thing to keep in mind is to vary your shutter speed. So
talk us through shutter speed.
Yeah.
How do you get the effect of motion blur or panning?
The lower you go, the better, but you have to remember you've got to have whatever your subject is, so in this case cars or trams, it has to be in the center of the frame for the whole duration of the shutter. So I range from anywhere from 1/60th to 1/8th of a second. Obviously when you start out, you want to start up much higher, because you're going to have a low hit rate, and then as you get better you can drop it down.
Now you'd have your panning settings on a custom setting on your camera, so you can just flick to it if you see the opportunity.
Exactly, so I have a custom button on my camera, so I click and hold one button and it instantly changes my settings to 1/20th of a second. Shutter priority, so I can be on any settings on my camera and I can always get a pan just by holding it at one button.
So you can auto ISO?
Auto ISO, yeah. It just sets it to shutter priority, auto ISO, and then it's just spray and pray.
Great, I love it. What about continuous focus?
Yes, I use continuous focus. You could get away with single focus just because they're probably not moving in relation to you, because you want it to be as flat on the plane as possible when you're taking turns.
And so you'd, as the car's coming towards you, you'd line it up, you'd get it focused, you keep the focus going, and when it's toward where you want it, you'd start.
Yeah, so I shoot a little bit before and a little bit after. You can use the focus box on your camera, so if you use center or you can move it wherever, I use that to sort of position it up and make sure I'm keeping the subject in the same spot the whole duration of the pan.
Love it. So we're gonna watch Harry in action just for a sec, and then we'll show you a couple of his shots, and you'll see how unreal this style of photography is.
Alright, so now you've seen me take those shots. Something you might have noticed is I'm holding the camera to my eye the whole time. That's just to get more points of contact with the camera. So if you're holding it just in your hands and panning across, you're actually going to be a lot more shaky because you don't have enough points of contact on the camera. So bringing it to your eye and holding it nice and tight is going to ensure that you're smooth as possible so that you're not getting any weird bumps in your photo. It can also be done with a camera strap, holding it nice and taut and panning that way, but preferably I find the eye is the easiest spot to hold it.
And that's even with vibration reduction?
Yes, I still use vibration reduction. You probably could turn it off, but yeah, always as many points of contact as possible.
Sick. Thanks, man.
No worries.
One of the other things you can do is just your classic landscape shot, right? Streetscape shot. There we go. I got it in the end. Basically, you want to be thinking, how do I frame this shot? And what I mean by that is what's the subject of it? So what do you want the shot to be about? Where is the light, and what's the light doing to the colors? Are there leading lines running through it? But also, how do you frame it? How do you put things on either side that lead and kind of hold the image in focus rather than let it just like splail out? So this shot is really, really nice because I like the chocolate bar just here, which looks sweet, and then we've got the sweeping lines around here with the yellow and then the pink light, very fancy, contrasting with the whites and greens and blues over here, make a harsh sort of contrast, but really beautiful. You've got the laneway, so there's a sense of depth, which is super, super important. You've got the reflection, which you couldn't get if it wasn't drizzling a bit, so really thankful for that. And then you've got this deal here and the roof of the alley that holds you in to the shot, which is super important, and it's creative, I reckon. So I reckon you give it a go. The other option you can do, I haven't even looked at this, but let's just see if it works. If I turn around here and I'm shooting up the street, you've got all these vertical lines that frame the shot, right? Your buildings that frame the shot, and you just need something of importance, interest, usefulness, creativity smacked right in the center. And when you do that, it's worth taking the photo. Now, one of the cool things about shooting in the city, and this always happens, is stuff that you don't expect to find, you find. And look what we found. We found some Christmas decorations because it's Christmas. Yeah, I know. That make for a pretty good shot. So have a look at this shot that we just banged out while we were looking at these cool lights as we walked through this alleyway and back to the street where we were hanging out at before, as this Ferrari came past and Harry didn't have the right lens on. He should do a vlog about having the right lens for a panning shot, man.
Devastated.
It was so sweet, the car. I was like, oh man. And Harry, that was the sweeter part. He's just looking at it drive past. The other thing, as I've said this time and time again, is to keep your eyes open, and with the city you need to look up. Right, so check this. Soul building right the way up there. There's a sick moment before with the palm tree in the foreground, Soul in the background, and some kind of rain spitting around the corner. The beauty of city nightscape photography. Is that what it's called? City nightscape photography? Will we call it that? Yeah, we're going to call it that. If it's not called that, it is now. Anyway, the beauty of it is there's so many options. Those options are changing all the time as vehicles and shops and lights and people change all the time. And it's just a matter of coming and wandering. So we've been wandering around for a couple of hours now. I bought a tripod for some of that long exposure stuff that's really, really important. But at the same time, I took out of my gear everything except my 24x70. And I've got my 20mm that shoots at 1.8. I brought the 20mm because I thought I might need the extra 1.8. And there's still something I want to try, which involves the lens ball. So yeah, we might try that before we wrap up for tonight. So much for joining me, guys. I've loved hanging out with you. It's been fun walking around the city at night with a bit of rain to see what beautiful images we can grab. Hope you've been inspired to find beauty in the mundane, to find life amongst the concrete. There's plenty to be had. And if you're enjoying the vibe of these videos or any of the others on my channel that you may have checked out, if you want to be part of the community that's building around some of these ideas to get better at video and photography, I'd love you to subscribe. And otherwise, have a wonderful day, and I'll see ya very soon. Bye.